Okay, whatever happens, we're here now.
Yay!
Our newest episode.
Yes, and today finally we're gonna be talking about the comedy and stand-up.
Yeah, welcome to the newest episode of Our Nomadic Lives. I'm Özgecan.
And I'm Miri. We are two Kazakhs in Berlin.
Yes, and this is our podcast about being Kazakh in Berlin. I grew up in Germany.
And I grew up in Kazakhstan.
And we have some interesting insights about what it means to be Kazakh nowadays, as someone from Kazakhstan and as someone who is also German, but also Kazakh.
It's the journey of learning about me, about you, like mirroring my post-colonial, your European, but then what's the ancient part in all of that?
Yeah, so the interesting thing was, right, that my grandparents actually never lived in Soviet Kazakhstan. So they grew up in China, in Kazakh lands over there. And so they never went through the whole process of colonialism and Russification of the language, of certain cultural things, but instead they picked up other cultural and linguistic traits on their way from the Altai region. So they picked up like things from India, Pakistan, and now Turkey, and now Germany. So it's always really interesting to see sort of the differences. But today we're talking about something that we both love.
We will look at our culture through the newest renaissance of stand-up and comedy happening in Kazakhstan, and especially about women in comedy. And there is this Kazakh language comedian woman, Jansaya, who just released her full stand-up show, and I feel that it's about everyone, every Kazakh girl, every Kazakh person, and I'm really interested to learn how that relates, if that relates, and to which extent.
Oh my God.
To
Too
European
much.
Kazakh girl.
Yeah, I think I just want to start off before we get into Jansaya, that one of the things that really we bonded over when we first met was how much we loved Ali Wong.
Ali Wong,
right?
oh yeah.
Oh my God, like Asian American. There's this whole Asian culture and being a woman and what it means, and but then being in the West, growing up in the West, or being of the West, which we both really related to. And I think like I saw her first special 5 times and I could still laugh about it. And I think you told me something similar, right? So then we were super excited when we found Jansaya.
Yeah, when she came out. And I think there are so many stereotypes in general about Asians, or especially if you are in some other Western environments, and then there are things that are really on the edge. Like you either can only cry about it or you just laugh about it because it's unbearably heavy and big. And it is interesting how I feel that we have a lot of that growing up and living in Kazakhstan, because there was this mixture of cultures and everything, changing times, and I'm so happy that many topics are being brought up now.
Yeah, and I mean, this is like, I think every community has this dealing with trauma through comedy, right? Like Jewish comedy, for instance. And I think it's a very human way of dealing with a painful past. And it's a great way as well, because it shows resilience in the face of hardship. And we're seeing a revival of Palestinian American comics. I mean, it's the only comedy I understand. I don't speak any Arabic, with Mo Amer. And now we're seeing our own Kazakhs coming up in Kazakhstan. We'll discuss some of the ones from Kazakhstan, but we also have our own Dinara Kere, who's in Berlin. And she does English language comedy about being Kazakh, and it's also just delicious to watch her kind of grow and unfold over Instagram.
Yeah, we should go and see her live someday this year.
It's a date.
Yes.
We're gonna do that. Yeah, but let's talk about Jansaya. And I think her stand-up was really, I really related to a lot of it, because she is a married woman. She has a child. And she's a bit younger than us, but she's of that newer generation who's growing up with the internet and talking also And this is something that, for instance, when I first went to Kazakhstan, I felt like there was a lot of hush-hush about painful topics, but I really feel like there's an opening up
Absolutely.
about painful childhoods, about also a painful historical past. Also, I mean, we really want to talk about famine as well, which was for a long time not really spoken about.
Yeah, and it's so common in all Kazakh culture, whereas those who stayed in Kazakhstan or those who moved, scarcity can be found, the fear of it or some footprints of that are continuing till this day. And we really, I feel also that we should speak about those. And then
Do you mean scarcity in terms of the famine or?
Famine,
okay.
Yes, yes. Well, during the social times, there were many more restrictions and the hardships that our grandparents, my grandparents and parents went through. But the comedy way of talking about these traumatic experiences is a way of delivering very softly, but such a deep, important, heavy questions.
Yes. And it's also an acceptable way of speaking to power.
Oh, yeah.
It's sometimes the only way to speak to power is by making jokes about it, by
unfortunately.
Yes.
But also fortunately, yes.
Yeah.
If we will dive into Zhansaya's experience, so she had a post-Soviet childhood, and then as a person also from that time, that place, I feel that the roots of many of her jokes go into the struggle that the elders were going through, and there were no really coping mechanisms, or there is no internet and not common knowledge that's available now to elders to understand what's going on with them and to really address the feelings. And then there comes the child who witnesses all of this. And I feel that it was so particularly, especially like that time and place. But did you feel something like that? How was the life for your parents?
The thing is, I think just mental health in general, I think it's a whole millennial thing, right? The sort of awareness around mental health, the destigmatization of mental health issues is only recent also in the West. And I think there was a very specific way of dealing with this in the Kazakh community. And I think it's something that's also been like that in a lot of collectivist communities, right? So where the collective is more important than the individual. I mean, psychotherapy is a very, very individualistic form of therapy. And in that regard, not much had changed, I think, from the nomadic sort of experience, because my grandparents were still nomads when they left their homeland, and they didn't see the famine in Soviet times, but they came to India, and out of 18,000 people, 3,000 survived.
To Turkey.
To India.
To
so
India.
They registered 3,039 people in India. And I'm talking about the first wave of migration, because there was a second one out of what was then communist China. This is the first wave before China's communist regime. So 3,039 people survived, and then out of those 3,039 people, 1,200 actually survived the refugee camps they were living in because of fatigue, illness, and also wave of illness. I mean, something we also hear about in refugee camps across the world nowadays is like the bad sanitization can lead to mass death in these camps. And this is what happened at the time as well. And so then there was a struggle, no language, and, finding food every day, right? But apart from that, until very recently, and this is true, I think, for almost all populations, corporal punishment, not having the vocabulary to talk through things. And I mean, this was one of the first things that Zhansaya also then mentions in her stand-up is, she makes the jokes about her mom, how she would hit her. And like the jokes that go around it, and they're just so familiar,
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. I felt like it was there's still that commonality, and I think the common denominator here might be, correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understand it, the world around you was changing through sort of the Soviet, post-Soviet, and you need to adapt to that, and you want your children to adapt to that. And I think this is something that is very common also when you're moving around, and you don't want to be seen as too different from the majority culture around you. And it was sort of out of worry and love, right?
Yeah, I think I hear what you're saying, and then I also now, after I work in this area, but also after looking back and reflecting on my childhood and questioning everything and being like, why this was happening this way, I see the elders who were around me as individuals who were so frustrated, like the ground was shaking beneath the feet almost, and then everything was changing. And in this time and situation, you have to not only try staying alive, but also you have responsibilities, people like smaller kids to take care of, and also the sandwich families, the elders to also help to. And then all of that without having the vocabulary or instruments to handle. Of course, it was a hard time. And I think as adults now ourselves, it's our responsibility to look back and understand and to see why things happen. And then there is definitely a collective. I believe that there is a collective, maybe loudly saying, awakening about and not feeling. Of course, it's unfair. Children should have safety, and a child deserves childhood. But then there are also common collective reasons why things happened the way they happened. I believe that all these cultural, historical things that were happening really are the grounds and foundation, the reasons for things to unfold that way. Then it's our resilience, and it's now to make it kind of a common thing to be like, yes, we all share this experience. The comedy and stand-up is such a beautiful way of really bringing it out. And also there is how nature of laughter and cries, when we really go into this feeling, it's quite the same, in terms of how
catharsis.
The catharsis of having and living it in your body and going through this experience, and after having some okay, now I little bit.
You have to cry sometimes.
Yes,
and you have to laugh sometimes. But what I thought was interesting was because, Jansaya talks specifically about her mother and how her mother would treat her as a child, right? But then also, in Kazakh culture, you don't talk bad about your elders, right? It's such a taboo. So then there was this little bit toward the end of her piece where she was like, but I'm very thankful and grateful to my mother. She's the mother of 10 children. And of course, it wasn't easy. And if I'm who I am now, it's because of my mother, which I thought was really sweet. But I was also like, it's the insurance policy. Because you don't have that in Western stand-up, right?
Absolutely.
You just do your jokes and you pull it through and you're done. And if there needs to be apologies made, it's done later on. But it was almost like, we don't talk bad about
No, there is this specific, you can see, we know the attitude towards elders, right? There is this connectedness and respect. And then, it's funny. Now I'm just remembering all other stand-ups. I know comedians from Kazakhstan, and it always should be that way.
Is it always like that?
I think mostly at the end, I love them. And then I think it's also personally, it's my worrying about my parents' feelings when I talk about something, or even when I write something about okay, this experience, when this happened, then I felt like that. But at the end, but my mom And my dad, I'm so grateful to them.
When she started, I was like, oh wow, she's going, like, I was like, I felt a bit uncomfortable, right? I was like watching it and I was like, oh, like, wow, like she's brave. And then she brought in like sort of the soft landing and I was like, okay, all good. But then she goes on and talks about being Kilin, and like some of the stuff she says is just so necessary, I think. And it's really a fall of status. Like when you're the daughter of a household, you're like, you know, the princess of the house. So, and then you get married, and for a really long time, I didn't understand what it was, but I just felt so at unease, and I just couldn't understand what it was. And no one had to say anything to me. No one said anything to me, right? I mean, there were things said here and there. Obviously, there always are, but after it took me about a year or so to understand, oh, I'm a Kilin now. You know,
Yeah.
You know? And like she talks about, you know, in as much as people say, oh, you're like our daughter, no, you're a stranger in that house. Don't pretend. And then she's like, and it's almost like being a migrant because you're home nowhere, because she's like, and then you go to your own home of origin. You're a guest there. You're not a daughter of the house anymore. And then when you're at your in-laws' place, you're the bride. You're the helper.
And she talks about it's really beautiful. Kiel is like invitation to just come into this cave and be there.
Come into this cave. So in Kazakh, Kilin it means basically bride or the daughter-in-law of the house. But Kil means come, and in means cave. So she's like, shouldn't I be coming into your cave?
Yeah. It's the fun way of saying, talking about it. And so it's interesting, even if it's the Western Kazakh community, European, all the privileges of Kilin stay privileges of Kilin and the relationship.
But the thing is, it's not even that, you know, the Western communities don't have that. They have that too. I mean, there were, just until recently, you had these movies made, what was it, Monster-in-Law, and there's always tension between the mother-in-law and usually, if it's a heterosexual relationship, the wife. I feel like it's more pertinent in Kazakh culture, like it's stronger. I mean, traditionally you were expected to go to your in-laws' city, owl, village, whatever, wherever they were living, and you became a carer there for your in-laws. And then there's this whole concept of, you know, I mean, I love this by Marjan Juma, by Jas Kilin, Kimperlerge As Kilin, which means basically there's a hierarchy of Kilins then, like of the brides. So if you're an older bride to that, or a daughter-in-law, you have more privileges, and then you can command the younger ones around. And then there's a whole seating order at the dinner table or breakfast table or whatever. And you have to be close to the kitchen and to go and bring stuff. Course, natürlich. But yeah, tell me your impression.
Yeah, I'm impressed that you know all of that by your experience too, by how it happens in the families. I think a lot about the distortion of the roles and traditions that happened during the time when to practice culture and religion was prohibited, like Soviet time, and then how we came out of that period really with many tradition and culture customs forgotten or misrepresented, or I think, is it right to say, to fade away? And how even the role of Kilin, if we look at it historically deeper, like there was such a respect towards the person who comes into the family. If we look, this is the person in our culture, the father line continues, right, in the family. So it's the woman, the young wife who comes, and she will be the continuing.
But
family.
not in her name.
Yes, not in her name. It's in father's name, but like there was this. She is practically should be the next queen.
Yes, but there were aspects of that too, wasn't there? Especially once you had like grandchildren, it was very easy to become sort of the matriarch of the family, especially if there were no elder men around, or if the elder men were like, I don't want to deal with it. It was very acceptable to be a matriarch in that sense.
And also, I think it's the war, the repression that happened. And I feel that when I was growing up, many families were ruled by a woman. And then even there are many stand-up comedians who talk like, okay, we respected that, but it's the mother who is the...
Yeah, I think this is a common thread in almost... I mean, I see it not only Asian, but also in the West, you know, like this whole idea of, you know, the father looking like the father figure, but then actually he's the one asking for permission behind everyone's back. Like, my wife, the wife doesn't agree. But it's always this sort of outer appearance, isn't it?
But in our culture, it's a little bit more visible, right? And from also my experience, of course, unfortunately, the moment you said it beautifully about the status falling, doesn't matter what degrees you have, how many achievements and certificates.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares.
No, absolutely. This is a very like remembering and talking as this young girl who came to the family more than 10 years ago, and with all her dreams and goals and this life rhythm that I was used to back then. And then you come to the reality of okay, now the household, and especially for me it was hard because I also just finished my master's and moved back to Kazakhstan, to Astana, to new city, new family, everything new, no friends, no relatives, and then it's already a huge migration change. I think it was one of the big crisis points, and then adding to that the attitude that you feel that you are the unspoken, or even if they're speaking you should be somewhere in another room. So I think we all go through that, and it's both. Do you feel that for this attitude to change or to transform, would you say, is it a personal journey, or
I think it's I think it's a community issue. Like, again, as a sociologist, I study
contradictory between.
No, but the thing is, it's such a common phenomenon that I cannot say that it's an individual thing. And I think it will change, or it changes. And this is what I believe. What I've so far seen and experienced is, if a woman was pushed down into that role and she was treated poorly in that role as the daughter-in-law, there's almost this sort of feeling of, I have to get my, not revenge, but like I have to get my right to do the same to others back. And I've heard this being said in a way. For instance, I had a friend, she had very young children, and she was living in the city with her in-laws, and then her mother-in-laws, and she was like, can you please help me with the kids? You know, they're your grandchildren. And she was like, my mother-in-law did not lift a finger with my children. You know, you should also manage on your own. Or things like, I was a young daughter-in-law once, and I was treated so-and-so. I always knew my place. Now it's my turn to be the buskey, like go up in rank. And I think that maybe the only way to kind of get over that is if the killings nowadays unite. And we start a revolution and say no more.
Union.
Oh my God. What I'm trying to say is to really set your boundaries right, and not in a disrespectful, I don't, care about you guys. Like, I'm not doing, but like, to show your respect to your elders, but also to be able to say respectfully, no, like I will help you with this and this and this, and I will come to this and this. And usually it's all the toys and the konaks and like, you know, going to help at weddings and the sort of the manual labor that comes with being a daughter-in-law.
And this manual labor is so not really needed these days.
Well, in Kazakhstan,
in Kazakhstan, like I mean, even if there are things that can be delegated, should be delegated, and everyone should really be doing something else, I feel that the elder generation, the in-law mothers and aunties, they will use that to be like, okay, now this is your thing to do. But yeah, in general, I agree with you. And here you came to the point that it's actually a personal journey too. It is a collective journey, as all the younger women who are coming to the families to understand. But then the empowerment of other women, I feel that it comes from this empowerment of one, of like one trying to and one doing and others seeing that, okay, it's not about the disrespect or not about me trying to forget the culture, custom.
No.
It's absolutely.
But also, I think we have perfected the way in internalizing the patriarchy so much that, you know, very often, when there is a new kilin coming into the family, the other kilin will be like, oh, I don't know, like, I don't think I like you, you know. But like,
let's see how you're gonna fit.
Yes, but not to fall into that trap, right? And to really, like, when I say unite, I mean unite, you know. Two daughters-in-laws, you know, you come from different families, you've married into the same family, like, or even if you have a sister-in-law who's in the family, to, you know, empower her in her journey as a kilin into the other family, but to really try to empower each other.
Absolutely. I think it's, we can even look wider. It's about this woman's role, and it's in all over the world. Women take, like, stereotypically, if it's the majority, we take a lot of caring for the family if you are a family person and if you have kids, and then also the expectation of the world to be successful in all of the ways, and it's only us who know how challenging and difficult that is. And in the collective communities like ours, I feel that it's definitely the other woman, even if you don't have as abson, sister-in-law or someone, it will be the external family woman who will be like, we went through that, you should go through that, okay, let's see. And also adding up to the challenge and setting the expectations so high. But what we really need, I feel that it's just to go low. To be like, okay, I know how it's, just do how you can, and don't forget yourself. It's a work. It's ongoing work, always. And then I feel from my experience, from my mom, mother-in-law, and the aunties whom I see, there is this one younger woman who come to the family and says, okay, you want me to be at that event, but that day is really, can we do something about it, because I already have something planned, or the boundaries, first time when they are being protected, it's really this moment for...
it's a difficult
moment for all. It's difficult for the young woman. It's also very difficult for elder generation to hear that, and because they never done it, and they never resisted. And collectively to go over that shock, I see that it's easier for them to create the gossip about, oh my god, this killing dear. Can you imagine in our time being that rude and not to do what's being asked? Oh my god. But you have to go through that.
No, but that's the thing, being a cycle breaker is like traumatic in itself. Like, it's so hard.
Absolutely.
It's so hard to be the first one in the family to trying to break sort of those cycles, and being like, I also need space. Because what happens, you give and you give and you give, and then you have nothing left to give. And then going back to the sort of being horrible to your children because you just can't give anymore, because you have no more energy left. You have nothing else left to give, so that then you don't have the patience for your children. In the end, no one wins. You know, if we keep going through with this old cycle of not accepting boundaries, of not sort of respecting the fact that, you know, the daughter-in-law doesn't have time, doesn't have, or the capacity. And then also, but it's not only always the daughters-in-law, right? We've perfected this sort of patriarchal system to the degree that, you know, mothers will tell their daughters to do more, to be a better kilin, to be a better daughter-in-law. And I haven't experienced that myself, because like my mom was born a feminist, I think. But I have seen it. Like, I have seen, you know, they're so worried about their reputation, and it's like a whole system, right?
Oh
because
God.
You know, there's a reputation to protect. I raised my daughter in such a way that she's a good kid, right? So I don't want you to tarnish my reputation. And then on the other hand, you know, you have, and then on top of your own mother, you have your mother-in-law, and then you have this, and then you have that, and then and all of this, and it's like a whole like ecosystem of, you know, following through with the collective needs and everything, and ignoring your own needs.
And if one person doesn't try to understand her own or his own desires and to be the cycle breaker, then that all can feel as a burden. So there is a proverb saying, "Anasına qarab kızını al," right? So you have to
look at the mother and then marry the daughter.
The daughter is going to be just like her mom, and then it's the reputation that's
I'm
on
so
the stake.
I wish
Yes.
When it comes to household.
No,
look at my father, and then I'll be
You're gonna get the father type.
Yes,
not the mother type. Oh, that's funny. It's also the reputation when it comes to it adds up to the stress that the young woman in the family, or like in general woman, if you are already married decades into the family, but still you feel that reputation of your behavior affecting all the other name of the family. That's a very, very intimidating. It's not, you are part of big ecosystem in the family, and it's beautiful. You can really use many benefits from that. But then you are on your own too. You're like
when Jansaya talks about the loneliness of being daughter-in-law into the family,
and you have the right to really speak up and to be for yourself, because how I feel it, when you are trying to really meet the many expectations of everyone around, you will not end up satisfying anyone, and first of all yourself.
But this is so true, because it's almost like the more you give, the more is expected of you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so unless you put the limit yourself, there is no limit.
Absolutely. We're just going through the process, how it works. It's true that when one person doesn't understand that, hey, it doesn't fit me, I want us to live differently, to have different relationship, then that person is probably to become the wolf in the family, and then to be like, okay, I went through that, you have to go through that too. But it shouldn't be that way. No. And that's, again, in general, like, I think our generation trying to be this cycle breaker in many ways. The way how we relate to new family, the way how we try to be also like professionals, or like a person, to also
like
be
an individual person, apart from the family.
And also the way that we are trying then to break the cycle of child bearing. Like the bringing up of the children, for it to be, if you also had you know how it is to have the general way of looking after kids and trying to feed them and heat them, and really it's like this conditional learning of, okay, this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad. You be either that, or you can't be the other, kind of. And we are also trying to be different as parents, right?
Yes.
Then you are also feeling that.
Yes. Cycle break. Gentle parenting does my head in. But I'm trying. I don't know if you saw this meme. There's like, when you're trying to gentle parent, but your kid doesn't want a gentle child, and then the child is like screaming out, and you're like, no, but Susie, like, you know, no.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, but I almost feel like it's a global movement. I think it's, it's the same in the West, in Western families, trying to be, the German word is bedürfnisorientiert, so trying to meet your kids' needs as they come, trying to be almost like a mini psychologist to your children as well, explaining them that they're feeling this way and that, naming their feelings.
But life is not like that.
Yeah, and sometimes, but that's the thing, sometimes like at the beginning when my kids started like school and I was like a bit worried because I was like, oh my God, like the teachers, they're so strict, or like not necessarily teachers, but like the pedagogues. But then I was like, no, like she needs that. Like she gets the gentle at home. She should also be, resilient towards toughness of life as well.
I think there are also, two extremes between this. Like, it is really dangerous to be, because of your own experience, to decide that, okay, I'm gonna be the softest.
So being a cycle breaker also as a parent.
Yeah. It is a challenge, especially when life for everyone brings its surprises and ups and downs, right?
Thank you for listening to part 1 of our comedy episode,
and the second part of the same episode, same topic, will be out in 2 weeks.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Hit the follow button on Spotify and on Instagram.
On Instagram and wherever you listen to your podcasts, or Apple Podcasts or Castbox. And if you had some questions or comments, or you can relate to the topics that we were talking about today, please share via Instagram.
I think on Spotify you can also leave comments.
Thank you for being with us. And go watch the shows.
Post-production by me, Özgecan.
Visuals prepared by me, Mirei.
And theme music by Dash.